Hi, everybody. As you know, this is Death Overdraft Happy Hour. Death Overdraft Happy Hour. 12,
Yay!
12. I actually switched it. I didn't have beer tonight. I have a vodka mixture, and I have popcorn because we are talking about movies.
Nice.
Not fresh
Striking
air.
liquor today.
It's like skinny pop, not like the real popcorn, but I think it still
Oh,
counts.
it's delicious.
So since you are all regulars and here, 12th week, amazing team that we're working with, Dive into Death team, collaborating and bringing our energy and our energy together to create this space. Jill, Megan, Rocio, Amber is with us in spirit, but working hard right now in another location. To bring some amazing content and community together. So we're so delighted you're here.
And Amber as well. She's here. Is that who you said was here in spirit?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah. And amazing that we are able to do this with and for you. So glad about that. We are part of Reimagine, as you know. We did. I still love doing these online. I can't wait till we start doing it in person again. But I so glad to meet people in different contexts from different parts of the country, and being part of Reimagine as well as part of that. We are a little bit differently today. We have a theme which was originally death in the movies, but we're really going to focus today in death in Disney and how it shows up and what we see and how we respond and just kind of all the
we're in for a treat. We are in for a treat.
Content and context of really diving in deep to Disney death, Disney death. And so Megan, it's just going to be really kind of interesting and thoughtful and mindful, and for us to participate and listen and view differently. So looking forward to that, and she'll give us some context for that for a little bit. But before we start, as you know, we are recording this. This is a safe space for everybody. You can participate as much or little as you want. I'm having Rocio. I love Rocio's smile. She always has like the best smile, and she brings it into the space. And she's going to start us off with the Reimagine intention that we have today, and then Jill's going to say a few words about Juneteenth, that the day that we're on right now. And then we'll kind of start some of our discussion. One of the other things I wanted to share, which I didn't do, we always do the name, where you're located, what you're drinking, and what's the last movie you watched. So if you want to kind of share that with us as well, just to kind of get us started on this kind of like movies, you can share that as well. So we'll listen, but that's kind of like curious where your last movie spot was, and then we'll get into Disney. And I'm going to be the chat moderator today. So I feel like I wasn't going to be chatty today, but I'm chatty as the moderator and gonna kind of let Megan run because I brought my popcorn just to listen, but moderate as well. Okay.
You're doing really good so far.
Okay. Okay.
I love you.
Okay. So, Rocio, please share the Reimagine intention.
Yeah. So I love sharing this intention every week, and it sits a little deeper each time that I think I read it, and hopefully it sits deeper with you as you listen to it as well. So it says, there's no life without death, no love without loss. They are in constant complementary motion, but never before in our lives has the world stood so still in the face of distance, illness, and isolation. We are here together, reimagining a changed world, kinder, slower, more just. We are reimagining the giving and receiving of love, the cycles of loss and new beginnings, and what it means to be fully alive. We are here. And I just want to share that given the intention of Reimagine and the times that we're in, obviously tying it to everything that is happening in observation of what is also celebrated right now, which is Juneteenth. And everything that is happening in our world and how we're sifting through a lot of the grief that we're going through on the collective. Juneteenth is, if any of you know what it means or what it represents, it's it's really the moments where emancipation was really proclaimed, right? Even proclamation had happened before. This was the day where the mass the basically the time in our historical context, given especially around the cycles that we're in, is really important to know. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront right now, and just acknowledging, you know, what we're dealing with right now and how we're going
Yeah.
through a cycle again, and
Yeah.
what that
So
means, and
Rocio,
reimagining what that means is for that.
Rocio, you broke up a little bit, so I just want you to be able to say that last
Oh,
again. Or can you?
yeah,
It wasn't that bad. But
Okay, yeah, we got it. It was just okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
My internet is not great. I'm so not for 5G, but this is what I have to deal with.
We felt what you were saying, but yeah.
Okay.
The technology gods are punishing you for speaking out against 5G, and they
exactly.
wavelengths. I know.
That's what's happening. Okay, so I just basically said we're going through cycles, and I just hope that we just acknowledge Juneteenth, what it means in our historical context, and what we're dealing with right now. And it's just a way to acknowledge, you know, how it's all threaded, and we're still here, reimagining. Really, we're reimagining what everything looks like and what we can create moving forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Megs, are you ready to do this?
I am. I mean, I'm not, but I'm always ready to talk about these movies. So,
Wait. Jill, did you want to add anything onto that, or you're good? I think you're good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we all shared movies,
as indicated by when she threw it to me.
I know. All right, sweetie pie, go for context. Go for it.
So hey everybody. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to talk about this because this is that thing. This is that thing that my friends get annoyed at me because once I start on this, it's kind of nonstop. So my kids have been home for about 100 days from school with mom and dad, which means we have saved a lot of money on daycare and put that money towards our Disney Plus subscription, which has been truly abused in the last 3 months. It's amazing. But in the talk that we had today, we really opened up trying to, nail down the topic, and we were looking for movies, and I started wrestling that conversation away, and Stephanie was wise enough to just say, you know what, Megan, why don't you just run with this as part one? And since we had that conversation, which was really exciting, I really thought, why do I feel so passionately about beginning the conversation of death in the movies, or death goes to the movies, with Disney? And I think that Disney is really a shared language, at least in the US. It seems to be the sort of thing that hits pretty much everybody. Everybody kind of gets access to it, whether or not you have a Disney Pass or a Disney Plus membership, or you just see it at your friend's house. It's the sort of thing that sticks. And they really are, Disney as a company represents some incredible storytellers. And one of the things that I appreciated talking today, and like Rocio, I would love for you to chime in at this part, is we talked about some of the problematic nature of Disney and how they use this incredible medium of film where they have imagery, they have sound, they have story, they have screen. And like we can all say it hasn't always been used for good. I don't know. I guess I just stole everything you said during our conversation today. But anyhow, like, I don't want to say that I'm focusing on Disney because I think that it's the best way that our culture has carried stories to children, but I do think it's a way that our culture has successfully carried stories to children for 75 plus years. And there is this continuation of culture through that company where the people who developed Bambi's mom's death, and that's really over the top, and we're actually going to watch that tonight. But the people who created that scene are the same people who created scenes in current movies that have taken the exposure to death in new ways. So really what I want to do now is talk about how Disney did death in the past and sort of how they're doing it now. I think a lot of us are a little bit more familiar with the past, but maybe haven't watched it very recently. If you have young kids, you might be more familiar with some of the contemporary movies that we're going to touch on. But
Megan, why don't we start with that one chat question and then we go into the screening? Because I think this kind of gives us, I have the question here. And I think that like there's so much richness to depth, to talking about Disney. And if you're a child at heart, seeing it then or reflecting on it now, from our parents' generation to our generation, it's everybody has a connection to some sort of Disney. So here's kind of in context with the death in the movies. I just put it in there. The question for us all to answer, and then we're going to really go into some of this, some of the pieces that Megan kind of highlights for us. But how does, let me see here, did it go through?
It didn't go through.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
the internet gods are against us tonight.
So how does,
okay.
Disney knows I'm planning to screen.
Yeah, and I think for, go.
It's Mercury retrograde, so people are going to have tons of technological problems moving forward. So just blame it on Mercury.
Yeah. So how does Disney movies show death and dying? A, abandonment, result of evil doings. B, random. C, traumatic. D, identity, orphan, widow. E, historic. F, opportunity to learn to explore. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G, all the B above, or none of the above, or other. How does Disney show movies? I mean, show death and dying in their movies.
I mean, I think that there's C is very true. And like, yeah, we all have that in our memory bank, is being truly traumatized by a Disney movie at one point or another, I think. I tell my kids that Disneyland is a place of sugar and fear and rules.
And
so I'm gonna kind of read through this. So a lot of people said see at first, very traumatic. They show up a traumatic. We got some all the aboves going through it, A, C, D, maybe F for Coco. So looking at the kind of as you start thinking of different movies, different Disney movies, how you felt, because almost every Disney movie has a death underlining in it. Natalie shares, oh, here we are. We're moving on to the
sorry,
next slide.
I didn't mean to, sorry.
No, we're good. We are so good. So now we go for it, Megan. We're on to like I would say all the above, but that's changed over time. Okay, go for it.
Right. I mean, so I think we can all talk about the traumatic deaths, and none better than Bambi or Lion King. I'm actually not going to talk about Lion King because it's Fatherless Father's Day and my dad died in August and I talked about him last time. So I'm going to park dead dads this time. But I did think that this scene in particular, like when he's trying to wake his dad up, that fucked me up pretty hard. And in Bambi, another really traumatic death. And one of the things that I didn't realize until I really recently rewatched this movie is that Bambi's mom does not die at the beginning of the movie. It's actually solidly 40 minutes into the movie. And I think that matters. Bambi came out and really resonated with a group of people known as baby boomers. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to, goddamn, Zoom changes every week. I don't know how to, okay. We are going to watch this. And I want everybody to watch the next, it's about 3 minutes. I want everybody to watch this and think about baby boomers, okay? And this was, as children and in their formative years, this was the exposure to death and dying. Thank you for your patience. You good? You can hear it?
Bambi! Bambi, come here. Look. New spring grass.
Here comes the music.
Bambi, quick! The thicket! Faster! Faster, Bambi! Don't look back! Keep running! Keep running! Made it! We made it, Mother!
So that part's really fucked up, right?
Mother!
Your mother can't be with you anymore. Come, my son.
Wow. Wow. And let's sit with a minute for how that scene ended and like what resolution looks like in that case, which is just like get over it, wipe it away, toxic masculinity, right? Just push through. That's
What's some things that came up for some of you guys? What's some emotions? I mean, for Megan, is there, put in the chat box if you feel, yeah. Suppression of emotions, toxic masculinity, right? Abby was
abandonment.
saying it.
There's that abandonment, right? That whole part of like mother, like that excitement that they made it. And, a couple of things. So prior to that point in the movie, he's never met his dad. So the fact that his dad said, my son, is like, wow, that was like a man up moment, which is horrifying.
Megan, Laura writes, I remember feeling such guilt about Bambi's mom. My dad was a hunter and brought Bambi's mom home more than once. Yeah.
Totally.
For Jill wrote abandoning the body. Natalie wrote no explanation of what the hell just happened.
Totally.
No explanation, right? Like she's not coming back. Like he doesn't know if it's his fault. I mean, it's Bambi's fault. Like, did I?
I mean, the fact that the last thing she says is "Don't look back, keep running." I mean, how could he not feel like it's in some part his fault? Okay, so that said. So what we see is abandonment, trauma, confusion, push it away, toxic masculinity. What are kids hearing today, right? Like what message is this entity of Disney giving them now? And I want to show from Frozen 2. And if you are Frozen 2, if you have not yet seen it, then I don't feel bad about spoilers because you've had time.
Megan, let me just share a couple more things before you share that. Agapi writes, lack of preparation for the idea of death. Jill McLennan writes, that's the part that always stuck out to me as a kid. The absent dad that always shows up when mom dies. I was afraid my mom would die. My dad would take me and I didn't want that. So a lot of other emotions resonates depending on how and where you watch that. Like what your life is like. Okay, so thank you, Megan. Wanted to share all that. So
Yeah.
heavy stuff. Okay.
Super heavy. And like, as a death positive individual, like, whoa, that is not how I want to present dealing with death to anybody. So what do we got now? What came out? This is Frozen 2. Agreed. Much better than Frozen 1. Also my favorite movie. Not joking. So in this case, we've got Anna, and in this scene, she knows her parents are dead. They've been dead a long time. She's sort of like unwinding those threads. At the same time, then her sister dies, and now her like best friend, companion, sort of navigator, levity, Olaf. This is his demise. So this is how Disney is demonstrating death to children today.
And Olaf,
What's this?
are you okay?
I'm flirting? Wait, no, that's not it. I'm flirting away. The magic in me is fading.
What?
I don't think Elsa's okay. I think she may have gone too far.
No.
Anna, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to do this next part on your own. Okay?
Wait. Come here. I've got you.
Oh, that's good. Hey, Anna. I just thought of one thing that's permanent.
What's that?
Love.
Warm hugs.
I like warm hugs.
I love you.
That's my favorite part, using water as symbolism for consciousness, transcendental consciousness.
Okay. That's a really different depiction of death, right? That's incredibly different. Whereas we have these long pauses in the anxiety and the confusion before, here the pause has been moved toward the acceptance portion and the wonder and the mystery of it all, right? And one of the themes of this movie is that water has memory. So yeah, the consciousness of it all, like, all comes together where we see things smashed together, right? We see Bambi go from confusion to acceptance like that, right? We see Anna go from wanting to push away this fact that he's about to die to then just accepting it and making space. And like you said, Joe, before, we had the abandonment of the body disappears, it's gone, right? And that left a lot of little kids seeing Bambi's mom come home. In this case, we have her embracing the body. I call that the scene that spawned a generation of death doulas. A lot of young girls and boys, a lot of young people, forgive my language learning, a lot of young people watched that and said, I'm gonna do that when I get bigger. And I think that's really special. And I think that Disney has always spoken to parents and children at the same time. And so what we're seeing here is a lot of parents hearing, like, it's okay. And for those of you who know this movie and know the scene that comes next, it's really intense. And it's a song about grief and accepting grief and living with the darkness. And it's got some lyrics that if you had told me a year ago that Disney would put lyrics like, this is numb, I will succumb. I don't know that I would have believed that, but that'll be on the website when I get around to it.
So this is I haven't seen Frozen 2 yet, so this is kind of a spoiler for me, but I'm totally fine with that. And I asked my Nora, my niece, I'm like, can I, because she loves Nora, like we have like a summer camp date to watch Frozen 2 together, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it with her.
Well, you're gonna ugly cry, girl. Let me tell you.
I know. I'll be like, Nora. She's like 1.5. I'm like, tell me what you think about this scene. But the idea that it's not scary, like, and that's the thing, is like, it's out there, and people like, oh, is this movie too scary? Like, it's not just like some diet. They put it presented like, this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah. So let's see what else people wrote in the. So Jill writes, I saw that in the theater right around when I decided I was finally doing this. So you're right, it did Death Doula in the House. She wasn't trying to fix anything, just loving, hugging him. Thanks, Natalie. Agape writes, love remains. Laura, it has elements of the children's book, The Invisible String. Even if you can't see it, the love still connects to you. Beautiful. Jill Shaw writes, death is not to be feared, but embraced. Okay, so those are some other things that kind of much different than Bambi.
Death and dying, right?
Death and dying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like death and like the death process, and to see her scoot towards. So anyways, we could go all day. I could talk all freaking day about this one, but we won't. So the next one that we wanted to talk about was
What's next?
Death as an identity. So, death as an identity. I thought the one that would be nice would be Cinderella, right? She's an orphan, and orphanhood pushed her into a shit situation, and the best thing that happens is magic, and that's what gets her out of it. And I thought, what would be a good comparison to a modern Disney movie? And we have, let's see if it shows here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Cinderella, identity of loss. Here she is at the beginning of the movie with her dad. Look at that lovely blue dress. Notice the design and the color. And there at the end of the movie, success is that she has replaced the man who died and left her in the lurch, right? That's it. That's what loss is it's something to be replaced. It's somebody to literally wear the same freaking dress to meet the boyfriend that fills in. I mean, daddy issues. I don't like that. This is daddy issues in a movie, in a scene right here.
Replacement. That is amazing. Right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, it's Disney. It's not like they had a bolt of cloth that they needed to like use up to make these two costumes. They painted them. It's intentional that the little girl and the big girl both are wearing the same color. So the comparison to that would be Up. I know. Up. And Up begins, with oh my god, I'm blanking.
Raise your hand. Did everybody see Up?
Who's seen Up? Yeah. I didn't actually watch it till this year. I was too scared. It was so sad. I was too afraid. But I'm totally blanking on his name. Anyways, he begins the movie as a widower, and part of his identity is that he is a widower. And the whole, the emotional arc of the movie seems to lie in that beginning montage, which, do we have time? Can I play it? Can I do it? It's just the tail end of it, because it's a pretty long montage.
We're told time.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, so somebody actually already mentioned it. One of the things that I again, could talk for an hour on each of these, but one of the things that I really love is Up begins with an awkward little boy and a bold little girl, and they meet and they sort of fall in love. And then there's this beautiful montage that brings you from the flashbulb of their wedding day through to her funeral, and when he goes home alone without her. And part of the story that precedes this montage is that she tells him, we're going to go on an adventure and we're going to go find this magical place. And when she starts to get sick, he does what a lot of older people do. And you'll even see in the screenshot. Oh, I'm sharing. No, I'm not sharing. Am I sharing the wrong one? Sorry. God, I'm new to this, guys.
Can we cheers in the meantime?
Oh my God, look at Rosia doing the cheers. Oh my God. She's got her organic wine. She's like, I want to cheers to my organic wine. She's like, you don't need permission to drink, but yes. Oh my God, so good. This was like, and there's no speaking yet up until this point, right? It's only visual, right? Little bit.
No, the little kids speak, and then it goes flashbulb, and they're adults, and they're getting married. It's like her being all like poke, 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 poke. You have only heard him say the word wow at this point in the film.
Right.
But we've also seen his entire marriage and his deep love, during which there's a miscarriage in the montage. There is, yeah, Jill, you got the right answer. Yeah. There's a miscarriage in the montage. You see them dealing with that loss and moving through it in a really beautiful way. Side note, if any kids are ever needing to understand what mom and dad are feeling after a miscarriage in the family, I can think of no better way than the 7 minutes of this montage.
Montages, and you're not playing the montage. You're playing after the montage.
End of the montage. So at this point in the montage, they've already experienced loss, moved through it, built a life together. She starts to ail in health, and he realizes, oh no, we're running out of time. We need to achieve that magical dream. And I think, Jill, this is what you see a lot with clients as they realize their mortality and they begin to be like, whoa. I mean, he is old. Look at him. He's old. And this moment here where he's buying the tickets is him saying, oh, we better finally get to that thing we've been trying to do. And this is where it goes from there.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, babe.
Oh.
They're in the camping van, baby. Go, go, go. You gotta be kidding me. Like, wow. Disney is talking to the adults in the room, guys, because the kids in the room get it. And part of the reason why I'm so passionate about talking about this stuff is because I feel like these tools of these movies and the super fucking manipulative tactics that are used to engage every bit of my emotion are so valuable for exploring the way I feel about things. And you don't need a kid that's home from school for 100 consecutive days to abuse your Disney Plus membership like I have. And I'm going to share some of the start times for some of these things, but I do encourage watching all these movies. But Up really begins with our anti-hero here. And it leaves him alone, right? He begins the movie as a widow, much like Cinderella begins her movie as an orphan. And we see him in a pretty terrible situation. It goes on to show him home alone by himself. Oh, it's truly gut-wrenching. Much more gut-wrenching than seeing Cinderella sing with some birds and clean some floors, right? Like, that seemed pretty sweet of a bad situation. They like really dig heels into what it feels like to have had a best friend and lose them. And then what we see is him forced into this relationship with the exact opposite of the person he would ever choose to go on this epic adventure with. And he is now stuck on an epic adventure with the exact opposite of the person that he wanted. And in his mind, that is the worst possible scenario. And the actual imagery of his house, which is there like they're beloved, and I won't even get into that part of it, but the house really represents his relationship with this person, his old life, right? His pre-widowed life. You see it full of balloons and lifted, and he's constantly pulling his past along with him, and he finds somebody who's the opposite of who he had been spending and building his life with, who says, I'm on board with that, I can help. And what a way, versus Cinderella, which is like, just wear the same colored dress and meet a new dude. Like, what an incredible comparison. So the way that Disney has presented death as part of somebody's identity is really, really important. And I don't know if, Steph, you want to wrestle this away from me. Are you okay? Have you
Yeah,
bounced-
no, I mean, I think it's such a, I first, when you said these are for adults, not just for children, you know, like watching with your kids, I think there's such comfort in knowing the acknowledgement of all that we go through, and gives permission to cry and to feel. Like when you watch Disney, feels if it's, I don't know if it's manipulation or not, but like it's really
I don't blame
beautiful.
them. I'm glad I pay a lot of money for it. Like, and I pay good money to be manipulated.
I mean, up that montage, just the context, and just like, and also around aging and how do we feel about it and what that looks like. I was so thrilled about Up. I mean, I was just so thrilled. So I didn't know if people have, just, I want to give pause to Megan right now. People just, we saw three. Did we see three? I don't even remember what we saw three different films right now.
Yeah.
What are you guys feeling? Like, what is, like, it's a lot. Besides Jill writes, I had a client who looked exactly like this character. It resonates with us in certain ways, like that. It's not, you can be a parent or somebody we work with. Silence is powerful, right? Laura says silence is powerful. Like there's no words, you know, it's just the music that takes us to it. Natalie writes, I think I cry every time. Like if you watch that like opening. Yeah, so I think it's there's a lot going on there. Is anything else people want to just kind of express right now? Like we can pause for a second before we move on to give some feedback or anything. I think Agapi writes, layers of where they take us emotionally are getting more intricate.
Want to be
Sorry.
That's okay. So I mean, the idea of watching it and then seeing Megan's expression watching it like is amazing. And then like watching with her kids, understanding like her kids are understanding the points of reference of like, oh, this is like understand, like being part of the understanding the depth of all this. So yeah, the layers of where they're taking us.
One of the things that we talked about earlier was just the relationship of these films in context to time, right? And so like we're looking at Bambi, that was done at a particular time frame that also shaped and was also a reflection of how we deal with things in our culture versus, you know, looking at Frozen 2, that's more contemporary, and that also shows kind of like the evolution of where we are at and how we're processing through the intricacies of life, you know. And so it's a symbiotic relationship, I think, in terms of how context is being presented, or what is also being presented and how it affects us and how we relate to what's around us. I mean, the biggest question that I have around any film, and especially with their family films, is how do we engage, right, in conversation with the younger children who become the seeds for the future? You know, what do those conversations look like? How do we finesse those conversations and those questions with these young beings, you know, that are going through processes, but that also have an immense awareness? Because I think as adults, we go through this like forgetting.
How do we listen to them? Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
And I
have a
think
special opportunity to have little kids to watch this with me, and I get to see it through their eyes. But a big part of my belief is that we all have a chance to parent ourselves. I was going to say mother, to parent ourselves, and to be the parent to the person inside of us, and to sit down, and however you want to get into that head zone, to sit down with the kid that you were and tap into the early feelings that you have and watch this shit and say, okay, how do we feel about this? And listen to what the kid inside of you says.
Yeah, and I think once again, it's where we can like I don't know what depth I've brought to certain things. Like we're at a different age. I'm at a different stage. I've had different experience, so I relate to some of these things differently now. I just want to share what some other people wrote. A copyright, the layers of where they take us emotionally are getting more intricate. We already said that. Yeah. Betsy writes, I feel old. I'm the last year of baby boomer, and I saw all the Disney history from 1960s to now. That's her context. Laura writes, it's a way of peeking into our future, or remembering the past, and just feel and the things, like being present with it. Jill's saying, Bambi is our parents' idea of death. Well, maybe my parents are boomers. Agape writes, humanity's evolution of consciousness is also reflective. And just, kind of like being really present and needing to hear this of what,
Well, and remember, Bambi came out in 1942, all right? We were in a world war. A lot of kids needed to hear, suck it up, push forward. And that message worked for a lot of them, right? Like, they weren't in an environment where, like, explore your feelings around this was open. The
idea of mom is not coming back. Like, wow. Like, right, where Laura and Jill were relating to, like, something's happened, they're not coming back, we need to move on. That you just have to do. You just have to make do. You just move forward.
Right.
That's
and we
it.
also see here, so something that I didn't get into intentionally, and I was correct about the time, is that for a lot of years, deaths of the bad people were seen on screen, and deaths of the good people were happened off screen, right? So Bambi's mom is shot and never heard from again. It was a big deal when we saw Mufasa dead, but even so, he didn't look dead. I mean, even Simba said, "Wake up, Dad, I think you're sleeping, wake up," right? Now we're seeing them actually flurry. We're seeing their bodies held and get dark and flurry away. But for so many people, the idea of don't tell the kids, that was the nicest thing you could do for them in the mindset back then, in that culture. Flurry away, I know. So how is that different from what we're seeing now? Let me see. Okay, so the last bit that I'm gonna make us look at is continuing bonds. So this one doesn't have any video that goes with it necessarily. So I think we should be good on time.
Is it Coco?
So we're gonna look at some Coco.
Okay. Because I
So
know this is important. Okay.
Yeah, this is super important. I mean, Coco is really incredibly well done. Okay, so we've got Disney Orphan Club, right? Most of the time, I just found this. But like, who in Disney is presented as just having dead parents, just my identity, right? To carry forward from the identity idea. And it's a thing that happened in the past. It is not relevant. It is very rarely carried forward. I think I have, let's see.
Do you make this, or was this like in there?
No, I found this.
Oh my God.
And like, okay.
Oh my God. So sorry. I mean, I mean, you know where my laughter comes.
Totally.
You guys get it. I can laugh with
as
you guys.
As an orphan, I can totally do it. So I think like my favorite orphan club is demonstrated by the Lost Boys from Peter Pan. And we see them, they have no parents. They're in like a faraway land. And as soon as Wendy shows up, they're like, "Oh, mother, awesome." Right? Like they're ready to reassign their intimacy to whichever woman walks in front of them. Mommy issues. I think that's like the most extreme example of the orphan club. And what we're seeing now, instead of having no relationship with those who have come before us, no mention of our parents, just that's part of our identity, we come to Coco. And Coco is worth watching 3 times in a week if you really want to absorb it, because it's so incredibly rich. There's also a really good documentary about it on Disney Plus. But part of Coco is it really illuminates the idea of afterlife. And I am from an agnostic, atheistic tradition where we see the afterlife as one giant question mark. That's it. That's as far as we take it is not for us to know. Who knows? Not worth figuring out. Let's deal with the shit on Earth. Coco is probably, I think, one of the most beautiful, secular, non-tradition related visual images of the afterlife. And so I think it's in the next screen. Okay, so what you see here are these towers, and I don't think I can zoom. What you see are these towers, and the way it's demonstrated is that the oldest cultures are on the bottom, and each layer on top of that is new upon new upon new cultures. And part of the story of Coco is you exist in the afterlife as long as you are remembered on Earth. And it's this sort of subtle thread that's woven through the movie. But what I think is so important about it is it goes exactly against the Lost Boys and the Orphans Club, where being an orphan is best handled by forgetting the people that came before you and just charging forward. We're saying, hey, you know what? Remembering those who came before us is worthwhile for them and for us. And so go ahead.
And it's also, if you look at the symbolism of the towers, it almost looks like a DNA strand, right? And it's kind of goes back to like that connection of what's in our blood system and that remembering. And that for me, I always make that connection to water. It's the water memory that's in our blood around, who we came from, where we came from, and that it's not necessarily erased. It's still there. It's just a matter of our cognitive dissonance around it, or our intention to even just recognize and accept what has been there and where we come from.
Right. Good eye. That just gave me chills. I hadn't seen that. I totally see the DNA strands there and like how they're overlapping and stuff. Again, watch it 3 times in 1 week. I know, because I've done it multiple times. You only need to do it 1 week 3 times. The second time you do it 3 times in a week, it's not any more extra. So in Coco, part of the beauty is we have family conflict, which I love, right? There's conflict amongst generations and amongst passions, if you will.
Family conflict, what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Family conflict, what? Right? It's not just presented as like beautiful. You had a beautiful dad, and now he's gone and he just disappeared. And don't worry, someday you're going to find a new prince that's going to step into his place. No, like there's confusion and disconnects, and the things we think were right, we're wrong. But at the end of the movie, there's this beautiful scene where, and this is not it, this is from the poster, which I realized later, I don't know what this is other than like a hilarious, isn't that so funny, the guy's butt on the corner?
At least there's no crack, so that's okay.
Right. I thought this was so funny, but I tried to find a picture of the end scene. So part of what really moved me about Coco was its embrace of, like I said, complicated family dynamics. And in one of the cases, it's Miguel, this is Miguel, and his grandmother here. Her job is as a caregiver. For the majority of the movie, she's a caregiver for this woman who is Mama Coco. And Mama Coco represents the oldest member of the family on Earth and the youngest member of the family on the other side. So she's really the fulcrum between these two extremes. And part of the story that resonates when Disney's talking to the adults in the room, we see Mama Coco being cared for by her daughter. And one of the most heartbreaking moments is when Mama Coco is looking for her father, who abandoned the family. He didn't. That's a big storyline. Abandoned the family. Her daughter, who never met him, walks over, and Mama Coco doesn't recognize her. She is pretty deep in dementia. She is very, very elderly and infirmed. And her daughter, who is no spring chicken here, right? And she's the glue of the family. Her job is to care for this woman who doesn't remember her. And so one of the things I want to point out for the people who have seen Coco is in the last scene where it is the Day of the Dead again in the next year. The whole family comes over from the other side. They're spending time together. We see this moment. So at the beginning of the movie, we see Mama Coco being cared for by her daughter, and you can sort of see it. I actually grabbed screenshots from the movie. This is what I spent the entirety of the time preparing. This is where 90% of the time preparing this presentation went. It was getting these 2 screenshots. But we see, look at the ache on their faces, right? On Earth, it's not perfect. And this is right after Mama Coco doesn't recognize her own daughter. And on the other side, we see this party, and look at her. She's enlivened. Her daughter is enlivened, and there's Mama Coco with a big smile on her face. And she's now crossed over. She's died at this point. And she's comforting her daughter in a way that exactly, like, she's holding her own hands here, but she's holding her mother's hand here, right? She's got her arm over her mom's shoulder here, and her mom has her arm over her daughter's shoulder here. Like, what a beautiful way to say, like, you will be rewarded for the work that you do as you care for your parents, and you'll feel those things. It's just ugly cry inducing.
Thank you.
And that's why I didn't cue this one up. And let me see if I
Thank you.
Oh, all right. That was Coco, man. I feel like we should stop there. I'm gonna unshare really quick. I think I
Rocio,
have-
did you want to know when we were talking about different like movies and Coco, something was resonated with you? Did you want to share anything with that?
I mean, it was just the connection to the afterlife that is so intrinsically part of, I think, a lot of cultures. You know, it's that we remember that it's not that life exists beyond this physical realm, and we're threaded by the invisible in such a way. And that's the reason why for us, you know, I come from a Mexican background, and we celebrate, I mean, not my immediate family, but I come from a culture who's deeply enmeshed in celebrating the transitions of people passing on and how important that is, you know. And so that ushering is what keeps life alive, not only here, but in another side. And we know that life is gifting us information, insight, and protection from the other side here. Like, they're not separate realities. And I think that's one of the highlights that Coco really gave, is at least to the masses in this particular culture, is that, you know, that exists. You know, it's not just here in this physical. Like, the invisible is incredibly tangible too. It's just, how do we relate to it? So yeah, I think that's the highlight of all of this, more than anything. And I appreciated that movie quite a bit. So
Yeah.
it was really beautiful to see.
I think something interesting too is that kids are used to seeing stories and taking, right? They treat it like fish. They eat the meat and spit the bones, right? Like, they're used to, my kids don't think that the afterlife looks like Coco any more than they think that current world looks like Coco. But it shared a concept and an idea and a visualization, and it gave them something to sink their teeth into. I mean, it was powerful. I will also say that I did some work with Ophelia Esparza, who is from the self-help graphics East LA art movement of the 1970s. She is.
I know her. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
She's.
Yeah.
She told me that I could build an altar, and I listened to her, and I fucking did, and my altar is dope. And she is an altarista from LA. She is an Angelino, and she carries through this. She is such a bridge. She's so amazing. And I can't believe she's still alive. She just did a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live a few weeks ago. But she actually, what do I want to say? She worked on the film. They worked with her to ensure that the things, so we talk about, like, does art imitate life or life imitate art? She'll tell you why her mother built an altar the way her mother did, and say, I know my mom did it that way, so I did it that way when I became famous. And when I became famous and I did it that way, and Disney asked me how to do it, I told them. So Coco shows my mother's altar. Like, it is that linear and matrilinear and is truly spectacular.
But the authenticity of storytelling, kind of, they really go to. So I was gonna say, like, we have a couple minutes left, Megan, and I just kind of wanted to wrap.
I will say one thing.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of see, like, how you feel about, like, Disney and what they're doing, but also for offering you some opportunity to closure for the group. So that's it.
Well, here's my closure for the group, if I can. There's a new Disney movie coming out, and I don't know, show of hands, has anybody heard of it? It's called Soul.
Soul.
And let's see. Yep.
Raise your hand if you heard of Soul.
Soul, Soul, right?
Okay, Laura.
So it's actually supposed to be released this month. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I'd love to play the trailer. So one of the things that I think Disney has done wrong is they've, or not done wrong, but that they have missed out on sharing male response to death, right? Like, we see the bravery come from the women over and over again. They're not wrong. But we've got a new one coming, and I haven't seen the movie, but I'd love to share the trailer. It's a minute and a half. Is that cool?
Thank you. Yep.
What would you want to be known for on Earth? We only have a short time on this planet. You want to become the person that you were born to be? Don't waste your time on all the junk of life. You don't like doing. Spend your precious hours doing what will bring out the real you. The brilliant, passionate you that's ready to contribute something meaningful into this world. I got the gig. I really need a haircut today, man. Can you fit me in? Whoa, sorry. What the? Hello? So what do you want to be?
Probably for doing this funny cowboy dance.
Great.
Oh,
What would you want to be
sorry.
known?
They're bringing it, you guys, and they're not shying away from this. The way that they promoted romance, I think, I'm going to speak off the cuff. I think that they promoted romance.
Wait. Let's all take pause in that. She's going to speak off the cuff.
I think that to generations before us, Disney saw a role in promoting marital relationships as something worth looking forward to, right? Like, we can now look back and say, like, they wanted us to find Prince Charming. Okay, or maybe we can say they didn't think that we needed to have the sort of relationships that our parents had where they fucking hated each other. Or they were put together at 18 and 16 or 24 and 13 and made to make it work, right? And I think that what Disney is telling us now is, okay, that's one phase. It can be not bad. And now we've gotten to another. It can be not bad. And maybe if I did some looking, they would tell us that being a parent wasn't bad, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any movies that have told us that being a parent wasn't bad. They've basically always told us, don't be a parent because you'll either die, turn evil, or disappear. But they're telling us now that you can die, and it's worth looking at. Yeah.
So how are we supposed to talk about death in the movies in general when we had all that with Disney and Pixar? Like, we couldn't. Like, there's so much opportunity for reflection and discussion. So thank you, Megan.
Yeah, and also, like, as we investigate, like, our own lineages and how we came to this work, we have to actually, like, I didn't even think about looking back at the Disney movies that were ingrained into my own head as a child and what they did ingrained, because yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm like gonna stop there. I need to work this through. Thank you. That was really amazing, Megan. Thank you for putting that together.
As I've told my kids, when you've talked too much, you just say, "And thank you for coming to my TED Talk."
All right. Beautiful,
Thank you.
everybody. So we're at the
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Oh, my pleasure. God, guys, this is like the best night I've had in weeks.
Yeah.
This is just what I want to do. Come over anytime. I will present to you. I like live to speak publicly. I do. Awesome.
we could have a whole Megan. When we were talking about earlier, Natalie, on like what we should be talking about, like every week we could just focus on one film and Megan and the content. Like, you know, like who's
Megan
the
is
audience?
like your breakout series.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, I will tell you, I grabbed shit. I didn't save it.
Oh, what was the up thing you're talking about? There was a content you said,
Okay,
and
yeah.
basically a lot of our stuff that we're capturing tonight that we'll have is going to live on our diveintodeath.com site. So
Yeah.
all this stuff that
They're still
Megan is
here.
putting towards us, like some of it will live on our website, diveintodeath.com. And then Megan was saying that there's some of these amazing documentary, like behind the scenes of making some of these Pixar. So some of it's her reflection, but also what they've shared. So I think that's pretty cool that they've actually very mindful about it.
Yeah,
Right, Megan?
I will totally share. I will this time get off my ass and actually update the website because I didn't last week.
You totally, please.
Yeah, I'll share it. Yeah, there's, the Disney is navel gazers, man. And they really are, they buy into their own mythology in a way that I think we could all learn from, where they hold themselves to the highest standards because they believe they can achieve that. And then they prove it and then they celebrate it. And like that whole process, like a lot of us try to just like grab one section of that. And that's why I believe that they have been successful in their endeavors, not in my measure of success, but in their endeavors, they have continually succeeded. And it's partly because of expectation to celebration.
Well, Walt Disney said that his goal was to basically turn, basically become liquid gold.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. You know, he was able to permeate a lot of his vision, idea, and dreams through TVs, which was the gold that like permeated and went through each household. And look at us now, right? So I don't agree with his visions all the time, but it's just he was able to make it happen somehow.
But
and
it's the context, but for the richness of this conversation is great.
He started with media and then created physical spaces.
Right.
And like, I believe that Disneyland holds a lot of the same energetic vibrations as some of the most sacred places on earth. I think that like people bring their big feelings to Disneyland and drop them off there, and you can go tap in. Like, it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that he was very, very, very successful. And it was he at that time. He was very, very successful with film and messages and communication and said, I need to make a place. That is some Mayan pyramid shit, okay? That is like some Stonehenge shit. Like, I need to drill down and create a physical location.
Well, it's so interesting. If you've ever been like downtown LA and gone to Clifton's cafeteria, like their claim to fame is that their interior and how cool it is, because it really is cool. They have like this huge ass like 4-story like fake redwood right in the middle. That's supposed to be like an influence of Disneyland, and just I forget what they called it, but it's like a fantastical. The whole point, that was the whole point of the experience.
It's an experience.
Yeah,
just like going into a cathedral. Just like, because I always have to speak about the enslavery of the California mission system, just like a lot of people were brought into these buildings where they shipped in statues that were all intense, like, lights in action, glitter camouflage, like getting people to be dazzled. it's all tied up in the same thing. And I just think Disney is the most current embodiment of that effort.
You know that I thought was really sweet the last time, or one of the last times I went to Disneyland, we went over to California Adventure, and we met some like younger kids, maybe like between like 13 and 15, that were a part of like the Plur lifestyle, like peace, love, unity. What's the last one?
Respect.
And like that they're like these like cute little like raver kids all at the same time, and I'm like, this is kind of fun. Like this was interesting. I didn't expect this, but just how they're kind of all over the place with how they're keeping up with culture and what they're offering.
Disney was my like high school hangout. I had a pass, and when my parents were super duper strict, but they were chill with Disneyland. And so starting when I was a freshman in high school, I was allowed to stay at Disneyland till midnight by myself with my friends. And we had like a parent would come drop us all off and a different parent would pick us all up. And every single week we'd go to Disneyland. And like, that was where I was introduced to rave culture in the early 90s, mid 90s.
Yeah.
There were Plur kids back then too. But
yeah, well, but this is the soft version of us.
Yeah, and also this conversation can